I'm wrestling, do not weep for me. Celebrate what I am. Celebrate what I have been. Celebrate what I represent. And celebrate the many ways I have impacted your life. I will survive this test as I have survived others. I am forever etched into the very fiber of all mankind. The world needs me. Time is on my side. History guarantees me. I am wrestling. Do not wait for me.
What's up, everybody? This is Ben Askren, your host, as always, of the T-Bone Funky Show. We're on episode number 45, sponsored as always by Defense Soap, defend what you have built. And I am joined, as always, by my main man, Mr. Tommy Rowlands. Tommy, what's going on in Ohio tonight?
Oh, nothing, man. Just the fall air is creeping in. The leaves are changing. That usually means wrestling season is upon us. So it's awesome.
We're getting close. I know we're not doing a preview tonight, but we are going to have to do a college preview at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Before the season. We only have, 3 or 4 weeks left or something like that, right?
I know, and then we can really start. And then we can really find some good stuff to talk about.
Right. Hey, so I wanted to bring up one thing before we got too deep, before I forgot. Now, Tommy, it has now been, I believe, 4 weeks since the Flow story about the referees came out, and still nothing from UWW. Nothing.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with your prediction on that.
Do we want to do a hunger strike or something till we get something out of them?
I mean, how do we do it?
I just go on hunger strike and I'll go FaceTime Live and I'll just say, I can last quite a while because in my early days when I was a stupid weight cutter, I would just not eat, which is a terrible way to cut weight. But nevertheless, I did it. So I think I could go, give me some water so I don't die. But I think I could go a few days without eating.
Let's do it, man. I'm down. I could probably afford to go on a hunger strike. I mean, I got plenty of built-up reserves, much more than I care to admit. I'll tell you what, I went Sunday night just to... Since we're kind of BSing here, I was at a good friend of mine, J.D. Bergman, either 2 or 3 time world team member. I forget how many.
I heard he got married. Is that what you're talking about?
Got married on Sunday night, and it was kind of a who's who in the wrestling community. You had Jay Jaggers, Tom Ryan, Russ Hellickson, Jordan Burroughs, Richard Perry, Tervel Delagnev, Logan Stieber. And that's just probably the celeb 10, but then there was probably another 30.
How many wrestling matches broke out at the wedding?
None that I was a part of, but I'll tell you what was weird is I was at my table with and this is kind of how meatheadish we all think, but I was at my table with, Blake Kaplan, who was an All-American, and another couple friends of mine, and I'm looking at the tables, and it's like you got Delagnev, Burroughs, and Richard Perry at one table, so that table would probably whip anybody else's table. Then you got Cody Magram and Stieber and Bo Jordan at another table. It's like, oh, man, they might take us out too. Then you got, Nick Preston and Jay Jaggers. The other table. I was like, man, they'd be creeping on us too. It's like, it was pretty tough group.
So you only had you and Blake Kaplan? You had no backup beyond
I had Robbie Rosenfeld, who wrestled at Ohio State. Okay. Jesse Lang, my business partner.
Lang could do some damage.
He's a tough hombre. I think I saw him cradle you at the Rudis Sales Summit. I think you might have.
That was all part of my plan.
So yeah, man, it was a good wedding, good time, and pretty cool to see everybody in the room together at the same time. Probably, plenty of good conversations occurred. So
did he get married on a Sunday night because people in Ohio aren't allowed to get married when the Buckeyes are playing or something?
I don't know, man. It's the first Sunday wedding I've ever been to.
I was gonna say Sunday wedding. That's pretty unique.
Yeah, I've never been to a Sunday wedding, but I was happy for JD, good close friend of mine, and it was fun to get in touch with everybody. So I had a good time Sunday night.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a blast. So I was at the Super 32 this weekend. Brought 3 kids down here. I'm actually still in North Carolina. I spent a few days working out with the Wolfpack RTC or the North Carolina RTC.
Before you get into the Super 32?
Sure.
Tell me about the Wolfpack since the exit of the Gwiz.
Well, yeah, he's still in the RTC, but obviously he was over in Russia competing, so he's not around.
Mm-hmm.
But they do have, I like the way they run their RTC. They have a handful of pretty good athletes, and they have a rotation of college guys who come in with the RTC guys, different guys each day, so that many aren't missing practice. Yeah, quite a few really tough guys. Obviously, Gwiz is on the road, but man, North Carolina State, they're doing it right. They're doing all the right moves to hopefully become a regular college powerhouse program.
It's awesome, man. I can't wait to see Papalizio just continue to obviously make the program a little bit better every year. I mean, to me, he's like a Rob Cole of, at this point, probably 20 years ago. You know what I mean? So,
Sure.
Or even a Tom Ryan or Borelli or, or Tim Flynn, just from that mold where they're not Olympic and world champions, but they plug in, top 5, 6 teams every year. I think he's on that track.
Well, obviously, in most sports, the best athletes don't make the best coaches. But for some reason in wrestling, people always want to put the best athletes in those coaching positions. And, you see someone like a Brian Smith didn't have amazing credentials. And so sometimes when guys like that get an opportunity, they make a great coach. And I don't know for sure, but I want to say wrestling might be one of the only sports where you're really required to have an extensive background in wrestling to be the coach. I mean,
yeah, I didn't expect us to talk about this, but it's actually a great topic that maybe we should save for another episode. But I'll just give you a little preview to my opinion there. And
we got a coach coming on, so we can hit it up a little bit.
And he's not Mr. Olympic champ, world champ coach, so it might fit well. But Ben, I completely agree with you that the credentials of a coach that he had as a competitive athlete, it's overrated in our sport. I completely agree. That being said, why do you think it does matter a little bit? Whereas in football, it is completely and 100% irrelevant. Why do you think it matters a little bit in wrestling? Because it does matter a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? I can't say 100%. I would, and I really haven't thought about this at depth, so I guess I'm just going to say the first thing that comes to my mind. And the first thing that comes to my mind is that people who, a college senior graduates, the only ones who are sticking around to train are the ones who are at the top of the top, right?
Yep.
And so those guys are then spending a lot of time within the college program. And so when their competitive career is over, they've already spent 3 or 4 or 5 or who knows, maybe more years, and you're there every day, so it's not like you're not helping. Even though you might not be an official coach on staff, you're helping with something, right? So you spend all these years helping and being around, and so it probably just makes a natural fit to bring those guys on staff, and then obviously once you're on staff, then you ascend the ranks and hopefully become a head coach. So I haven't thought of depth, but that would probably be my initial intuition about it.
I've thought a lot about it, actually. I've probably invested, let's say 10 hours of collective thought, which is a lot of thought if you think about it. I've probably thought about it 10 hours over the past, 5 years. And I think first and foremost is there's not that many jobs.
Yeah.
There's let's call it 75 D1 programs and then probably another 200 collegiate programs, right?
Yeah.
So there's 275 programs times an average of, let's say, 2.5 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So 275 times 2.5, I'm doing very fuzzy math here, but that's 600 or 700 jobs. So there's 600 or 700 jobs. Sure. I think that's number one reason. There's just not that many jobs, and people just, out of laziness, give it to the guy with the credentials. To me, that's the number one reason. Number two reason is the reason you brought up, which is that most guys need to go make a living, and they can make a better living for themselves. The unaccomplished wrestler can make a better living for himself at age 23 by going into the work world as opposed to coaching, whereas in other sports, it's kind of a linear path where it's like I could make 45 grand being a grad assistant on the football team, or I could make 45 grand working for Morgan Stanley.
Well, what about, Tommy, what about the fact that
I had 3 reasons, Ben. I had 3 reasons.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. No big deal. And the third reason is a legit reason. And I think wrestling is a tremendous feel sport.
Yeah.
So I think there is merit to our best competitors being able to translate, understand, and communicate the sport in a way that makes them somewhat unique. Not totally unique, but I think there is merit in having a lot of credentials in a sport where feel, and it's hard to explain necessarily. So I think those are the 3 reasons for me.
Okay, well, let me throw something at you real quick here.
Okay.
Because while you think about that, so 2 thoughts. Number 1 would be, someone like a Dwayne Goldman or a Barry Davis, and yeah, I'm kind of going to throw those guys under the bus, but I mean, they were about as good as it gets in college wrestling, and Barry Davis obviously got an Olympic silver medal. And they're at big-time programs, Division I, Big Ten programs, which is the best of the best. And you would say they haven't necessarily overachieved, and both of them have been there for over 20 years. And, the administration's not really pressuring them, whereas, who was the guy from, LSU that just got fired? And he had,
Les Miles.
He had like a 900 winning percentage or something insane. So, I mean, maybe the administration's not giving some of these guys the boot, where there will be more turnover within the coaching ranks, and then
no doubt.
To go on top of that, the football coaching staff has 20 guys probably on it,
right?
And so what you're getting then is out of those 20, you're getting to see who can actually coach and who can't, right?
Right.
And the ones who can coach are getting moved up, and the ones who can't are getting weeded out. Whereas in wrestling, when like you said, you have 2 or 3, and they're there because they stuck around. And the other guys, and other people couldn't get jobs, and then those people get then thrust into head coaching jobs, and then the administration is lackadaisical about holding them to higher standards, and they stay around for 25 years.
No doubt, and there's just so many reasons. I wasn't like I was saying that it makes sense that we hire our best athletes and neglect everyone else. I was just trying to to your point. I agree with you. I think
it's an interesting thought. I think
I actually think it's ridiculous. I mean, it is ridiculous overall. It's actually a ridiculous presumption to make that since you're a great wrestler, you're going to be a great coach.
Yeah, and frankly, I think sometimes sometimes not always, but it's kind of actually the opposite, because some of the guys who don't have the struggle, they're just the best because they're the best, and maybe they listen to coaches. They haven't put a lot of time and thought into why do I do what I do, how do I do what I do, and how do I teach that to someone? How do I break it down into pieces to get someone else to do that same thing, Yep. And so I have seen, because actually at AWE we've been able to bring in an amazing amount of high-level wrestlers to come do clinics for our kids, and it is really interesting to see person by person. And I'll tell you, someone like Brian Smith, who's been in coaching now for 20, 25 years, the way he can speak to athletes and talk to them and break stuff down, it's just so much better than college kids or guys who are just out of college who haven't had that experience. And so someone like him, man, he was just breaking it down, doing a great job. And I've seen some very, very, very good guys who just they are not great at describing exactly what it is they're doing.
Completely agree. I could not agree more. Our podcasts are always better, Ben, when you and I are in a heated debate or an argument. It's kind of disappointing when you and I are on the same page, because it probably doesn't help the ratings too much.
Yeah. Well, so what do you think about Kale? Kale and Gable are best athletes, and obviously I know Kale's got a lot of help, and there's a great coaching staff there. But you'd have a hard-pressed argument saying that he's not the most effective coach over the last 5 years, right?
No, yeah. I mean, just because you were a great competitor doesn't mean that you aren't going to be a great coach. It just doesn't. It simply does not correlate. Sure, I guess. Sure. Yeah. It's Kale has some nuances about himself that he's able to leverage, but it's a difficult thing to talk about. But I guess.
I mean, you think with Kale, one of the criticisms I've heard of John Smith, which there aren't a whole lot to go around about John Smith, is just that he can't relate to guys losing and guys not being good, because he was so good at what he did. And I've heard that from international senior level guys that I went over and lost to this guy, and he was a world medalist or whatever, and I come back and John just doesn't understand how you lose, because he never did.
Crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got Matt calling, and he's about 2 minutes away.
Awesome.
So I guess I can probably go on a monologue about the Super 32.
Yeah, do that.
Man, so that Tommy, this is the first time I came in. It was kind of like a little tester. We brought 3 kids and wanted to check it out and see what it was all about. Man, the level of competition out here, and I guess I thought about it afterwards, but I had never, ever been to an East Coast folk-style tournament. So Wisconsin high school has very strict regulations on travel. So we don't, we as high school programs, they don't really get to travel. And then in the spring, we wrestle all freestyle and freestyle and Greco. So we never really traveled for folk-style. Man, great competition. Every bracket was stacked. And I'm super impressed with, I just think year over year that the ability of the high school wrestlers is getting better and better. I mean, some of these kids I saw wrestling, it was like, they be competing with college kids right now today.
I agree. And I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like we've seen there was like when I came out of high school and maybe 5 or 6 years prior to that, when I was 13 or 14, I feel like the caliber of wrestling stayed the same from like 95. I'm talking about coming out of high school from like 95 until, let's say, when did Logan Stieber and David Taylor graduate?
What, like 2010-ish or?
Yeah, I feel like the wrestling for like 15 years coming out of high school, it was kind of the same. And I'm not saying it was bad. It was good wrestling, but it was kind of the same. And then I feel like in the past 5 or 6 years, there's been a foundational shift in the caliber of wrestler that comes out of high school.
Yeah, so what do you, obviously I think one thing, I don't want to pat myself on the back or anything, but having high-level wrestlers, having these academies and stuff. Oh, hold on, Matt's calling in.
Got it.
How's it going, Ben?
Pretty good. Hey, you mind if Tommy and I, and obviously we would enjoy if you joined in, but we were just talking about the level of wrestling at the Super 32 and how we both think that the level of high school wrestling is significantly higher today than it was when you or I or Tommy was in high school and coming through. And just really the last 5 years we've seen this explosion of really high-level high school wrestling. What do you think about that?
I think you guys are spot on. It's crazy. I'm scared to think about what I would look like as a high school wrestler when I wrestled against guys today. And I think part of the reason is you've just seen so many more clubs come out since.
Wow, you're taking the words right out of Ben's mouth, Matt.
Yeah, clubs, and then just the technology. Back in the day, you could only learn a wrestling move if somebody, you sat down in front of somebody and they showed you a wrestling move. Now you can get online, you can go to Flow, you can go to YouTube.
Yep.
You can learn any move you want from behind a computer from some of the best in the world. You don't have to be in a wrestling room getting taught.
What do you guys think about, and I don't know that...
First of all, I haven't got to say hi to Matt. So, Matt, what's up, my brother?
Tommy.
Thanks for coming on.
How's it going, Tommy? How you doing?
Oh, I'm hanging in, man. I had a good weekend. We're at J.D. Bergman's wedding Sunday night, and now I'm doing a podcast on a Tuesday. Life couldn't be better.
Were you one of the dancers in that Thriller scene?
I was not
one
of
the
dancers.
There was a Thriller scene. What are you guys talking about?
Oh, J.D. Bergman's going to ham it up and have some cheesy dances at his wedding. That's how he rolls. So, yeah, he had a Thriller. When he went to do, like, the dance where you do the garter belt thing to your new bride, instead there was a premeditated act where there was, like, smoke coming out of the DJ's DJ box, and the lights started flickering. And then all the men in the wedding party did the Thriller dance for JD's wife. It was pretty funny.
So were you scared that you were gonna have to get in there, Tommy?
No, man, but I don't mind cutting the rug a little bit. I gotta have a little bit of a nudge from the beverages, but not too much. And then I'm out there hanging out, having a good time.
Oh man, that's good.
So what's funny though is. Well, I wanted to get back to Matt's comment, and then we can get back to Super 32, but it's amazing that he took the words right out of your mouth with the clubs, and then mine was going to be technology. That was what I was going to say. So sounds like we're all on the same page right now.
Yeah, let me add another one. And so I don't know. I don't know if this is positive, negative, or other, and maybe you guys can speak on it, but obviously, and my kids that I took down, they were asking me, well, what'd you wrestle in high school, Ben? And I tried telling them, like, guys, there wasn't anything to wrestle in. Like, you could wrestle in the fall. And in the spring, you did, like, your Northern Plains, your duels, and your nationals. And that was it. You know what I'm saying? You just didn't have opportunities. So do you think the amount of high-level competitions, do you think it helps? Sometimes I think it harms because these kids are constantly competing and not just worried about getting better. But, I think that probably has to have something to do with it, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily harms it because, I mean, as hard as you go in practice, you never simulate matches. And you could, if you just wrestled practice all year long in a college room, you'd be wrestling some really good guys, but you wouldn't necessarily be ready for the NCAAs. So sure. I don't know. I don't think it necessarily harms it.
Yeah, what do you think, Tommy?
No, yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't think that there's necessarily a harm either. I mean, I don't see it as being something that's too effective.
Sweet. So let's get into Matt. You're our guest, so let's get into your story. And so I guess where we got to start is you were the head assistant at Northwestern. Some stuff went down with Drew Periano last year, and you essentially became the head coach. What I want to say in November at some point, so very very late in the game. Tough year with some injuries this year, but you left the year standing, and you're back for another one, and you are now officially the head coach. How's all that gone down, and are you feeling confident going into this year? Are you excited? How you feeling?
I'm excited, man. It's last year was a bit of a roller coaster. I wasn't expecting to be thrown into the position I was thrown into, and then a couple of weeks later we have season-ending injuries to Johnny Sebastian and Bryce Brill, who were two of the best guys we would have had in the lineup. And I feel like I had almost every scenario I could have had thrown at me in year one. And, we got through it. The morale on the team was great. We came together more as a team, even despite having all the adversity that we ran into. So, getting through last year was a bit of a challenge, but we made it. And then I had the opportunity to put together a new staff, get some new recruits in, and kind of put my own stamp on it. And it's going well now.
Let me interrupt you there, Matt, and I agree with you. It seems like you're building up some momentum here. You mentioned the addition of some new staff members, and you've got Cody Brewer and Andrew Howe added to your staff. I mean, when I think about, the people you have in that room and the youth of coaching you have in that room, I mean, talk about that dynamic and maybe what are some of the things that are great about it and some of the things, well, there's probably nothing negative about it at all, but maybe some of the things that you need to recruit against because your staff is so young. I mean, just take us through what that means to the program.
Right. Well, obviously, anytime you can add two guys to your staff, both of them four-time All-Americans, national champs, it's pretty good,
Yeah.
So then on top of it, you get one of those guys that's Andrew Howe, and I feel like describing him as a four-time All-American and a national champ doesn't even do him justice. He was one of the best NCAA wrestlers to come through his era. Internationally, too, if it wasn't for the greatest wrestler in the history of the U.S., I think he makes a couple of Olympic teams and wins a bunch of medals. Mm-hmm. So having Hal come on board was huge for the program. And then once we got Hal in place, the next piece was to try to find ourselves another lightweight coach to bring in to roll around with a guy like Sebastian Rivera, who's a redshirt freshman for us this year, and some of the other talented lightweights that we have. So I was extremely fortunate with the assistance that I was able to bring in and help complement myself and Coach Beebe.
Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously, now I like Brewer a lot more than I did a month ago, and not saying I was against him, but anytime a man puts his hands on Tony Ramos like that, and as optimistic as I wanted to be about that match, Matt, I never, ever, ever would have bet. I wouldn't have bet a dime on him getting 5 takedowns in a row within 2 minutes. So I don't think anyone expected that. I mean, maybe you and maybe him, and maybe that's it. But obviously, that shows what kind of level Brewer's at, and he has the ability to try to go make the non-Olympic world team here in in a month or so.
Yeah. So three weeks or so. And I'm going to ask you to keep this between me, you guys, and whoever's listening. So Brewer will probably find out.
It's only 47,000 listeners nationwide.
Yeah, I'm sure they can keep their mouth shut too. But I thought Brewer was going to win that match. I didn't think he was just going to run through Ramos like that. I mean, that was like you said, 5 takedowns. It was 5 takedowns in 2 minutes. It's not like he took him down and fell into an ankle lace and rolled him across the mat a few times. And that was about as dominating of a performance as I've ever seen a guy put on a 2-time world team member. I mean, it was different attacks. It was was quick, and he was relentless. And
I remember when it happened. Ben and I talked about it right after it happened on our podcast, and I remember saying, it's one thing for Brewer to beat Ramos. It's another thing for Brewer to tech Ramos. But then it's another thing for Brewer to tech Ramos with takedowns. And no one, I don't know how you could have imagined that happening, but 5 takedowns is just absolutely dominant. It's not a takedown to a lace. It's not, a 1-point win. I'm going to go out there and in a 2-minute span, I'm going to throw you to the mat 5 times.
Yeah, no, it was impressive. It was a special thing to be a part of.
So moving on, you had a big announcement today. Well, you didn't announce it, obviously. The recruit did. Anthony Cassiope, I believe that's how you say it, from Illinois. Number 27 in his class by Flo. Just committed to Northwestern, so congrats on that. And I know I was down at the Super 32, and you hear a lot of rumors when you're down there. And I heard another rumor about another potential commit to you, and I don't even know if I could say what I heard or not. I don't know, but what the NCAA can't come after me, can they?
NCAA can't say anything to you. No, I can only confirm the recruitment of an athlete. I can't actually say if they have committed or not.
Okay, well, I heard you guys are either have Michael Beard in the bag or close to having Michael Beard in the bag, and obviously he's the number 1 wrestler at 182 pounds in the country, and he's only a junior.
Well, if you go to Flow Wrestling, I think you can find the answer to that, or somebody's Twitter account. But we are recruiting Michael Beard, and that's all I can say about it, unfortunately.
Okay.
Boom.
Well,
Love it.
How about Cassiope? So you guys pumped to get Cassiope in or no?
Again, I can confirm the recruitment of that athlete, but you're going to have to refer to other sources.
Dude, you might. We're going to start calling you Coach Hillary Clinton.
Right? Are we talking to Crooked Hillary here?
We're talking to Hillary, man.
Well, there is a little bit of politicking and PR. You have to have a little tact as head coach. So, I don't know if that's a compliment or a dig, but
it's both. It's both.
Wait, so Matt, let me ask you this. So even though he announced today, it was announced on Flow Wrestling that he was going to go to Northwestern, you can't also confirm that?
No, I can't confirm any commitment from a recruit until they sign an NOI.
Ben, you were an NCAA coach for like a year or two, weren't you?
He was at Arizona State. I don't know how much you follow the rules anyway.
You got to know that, Ben.
But come on, the kid announced it. You can just say, yeah, that's okay. Well, how about this? We won't pose it. What do you think about Anthony Cassiope as an athlete? Or, what do you think about him? How about that?
Man, I think I'm allowed to answer that one.
Okay.
He's a phenomenal wrestler. He double cadet UWW cadet national champ last year, both styles, junior national runner up. The kid knows how to wrestle. He's a winner.
Yeah, so that's pretty awesome that you guys have 2 high-level juniors already signed to that class. I mean, that's when you're talking about building the future, that's what it takes right now. And you're going to have 2 top 30 guys right off the bat, and obviously I'm sure you'll be looking to get more.
Keep checking that out because I think this weekend we'll have another big announcement coming up.
Uh-oh.
Whoa!
Can you give us any hints? No.
Yeah, man, this is. They may or may not be teammates with one of the guys that we have confirmed recruitment of.
Oh shoot! Well, now I gotta go on Google and do my research and stuff.
Do a little research. You guys might figure it out. And so we're hoping to get another commitment from another top 15 kid out of that junior class.
Okay, well that would be that would be a hell of a class right there. Three top 30 guys, and obviously we're really early in the process.
Yeah, 4 is the goal, and I think if we do that, we give ourselves a fighting chance at having the number 1 recruiting class of the class of 2018, and that's the goal. I mean, we have some hardworking, kick-ass assistants in there right now, and we're doing the work. We're putting the work in, and I think we're gonna see the fruits of that labor here pretty soon.
Sure. So let me ask you this. and Tommy doesn't know. Me and you texted a little bit earlier today, and Matt, you said this to me, and I kind of thought you were insane. I might still think you're insane, but you gave a decent argument. So
Right.
you said that you don't think there should be any dual meets in the NCAA anymore.
I'm not saying any dual meets,
Okay.
but I don't think there need to be as many dual meets. You know, I think that you should still have some duels. You know, you should keep some of the historical aspect of wrestling alive, but I just don't think dual meets. I feel like we're trying to jam the round peg in a square hole with dual meets. Everybody keeps saying that they're the lifeblood of wrestling, and if dual meets were that cool and that popular, dual meets would be that cool and that popular. We wouldn't need to keep trying to turn them into something or make them bigger to draw all these people. You know, like in Iowa, they fill the stands and they got more people for that grapple on the gridiron, but were those people there because that was a wrestling match, or they were there because it was a wrestling match in the stadium? You know, we're getting kind of gimmicky, and it's cool because you're growing the sport. Yeah. But I don't necessarily think that we need to have as many duels, and I think there are parts of the dual meet aspect or that structure that are kind of shooting ourselves in the foot with doing what we claim to the goal to be, which is grow wrestling. If you look at programs that have been dropped, the two biggest reasons typically are APR issues and budgetary issues. And dual meets don't make sense in either of those two areas. You know, from a budgetary standpoint, you're taking a kid, you're flying them halfway across the country, you're putting them up in a hotel for 2 or 3 nights. You know, you're providing meals for those days for a kid to go out there and like I said earlier, Ben, you know, to wrestle 7 minutes, or if he wrestles a guy like you, maybe he wrestles 20 seconds. And then on top of it, you know, and kids making weight, all that grind. On top of that, now the kid's missing 2 days of class, all for, you know, 7 minutes. 7 minutes maximum wrestling.
Well,
and when APR is a major issue with teams getting dropped, that doesn't add up.
That is a man. I mean,
it's an interesting argument, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I agree, but man, I respect. I've never heard that stance, and there's a lot of logic in the opinion. And man,
so let me ask you a question, Matt, because we didn't really follow up with text. You said that, and I knew we'd get the opportunity to talk about it tonight. So would that I guess I'm assuming that you're proposing that since they would do like, you know, multi mini tournaments or multi-match things, each team would then do less competitions per year. Right now, I think it's 16 dates or something. So you would shrink the amount of dates down a little bit.
Yeah, I think you shrink the dates down a little bit. You have a few less competitions. It saves on budget for schools. It keeps the kids in the classroom a little bit longer. So you're saving on the budget. Kids' grades are going up. APRs are going up. And I feel like it's win-win. And then the added benefit to this is just the atmosphere that you could provide if you have, instead of a dual meet with 2 teams, maybe go to a 4-team mini tournament. Each team enters 2 wrestlers. Now, instead of just having fans from 2 schools, you have fans from 4 schools. Instead of having 20 sets of parents in the stands, you have 80 that come there to watch their kids. So you're growing the atmosphere. You're going to make the event a more fun event to be at because you have more fans there, more cheering. And then the kind of bonus benefit to all this is you're guaranteed to see the 2 best wrestlers at the weights wrestle in the final. Instead of a dual meet, you might have a dual meet between 2 top teams, but maybe they're mismatches all the way across the lineup, or maybe you have 1 or 2 real marquee matches. If you have the little mini tournaments, you're guaranteed to have the 2 best wrestlers of the weight wrestling each other, and I think you'd get a little bit better wrestling out of it.
Sure. So since you're proposing it, let's go deeper into this because I think this is really interesting. And
let's do it.
Like you said, maybe it's not something that happens straight across the board, but it's something that happens sometimes, and it does help out a program with budgetary issues. So if you're going to do, say, 4 teams, they can all enter 2 if they want to. You put them in an 8-man bracket, you put them in 2 pools of 4, and then the 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, etc. Or, how exactly would you estimate that be wrestled out?
I was thinking more of a 8-man bracket, straight line bracket, and you run through it.
And wrestle through it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and so have you?
The other thing that does too is you get more kids involved in wrestling. It's not just your 10 starters that get to wear a singlet and compete.
Yeah, and obviously the argument there is that there already is open tournaments, but every one of us know that open tournaments are long, they're exhausting, they're not spectator friendly in any sense of the imagination.
Right. Right. And then when you have your dual meets, now, say instead of having 12 dual meets a year, you have 6, or you have 5. You put the same amount of effort that you would promote 12 duels, put it into 6. Each of your events should be twice as good. It's kind of like I'm going to make some pretty obscure references here, but Justin Timberlake, phenomenal SNL host. People ask him, why aren't you a regular? And he says, well, if I was a regular, it wouldn't be that good. Things that are common and happen all the time, they're not that great. Look at rocks. The rocks that are all laying around the ground, nobody wants those. The ones that are rare and you find every once in a while, those are the big ones. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that are worth money. So make it more of a special event. Spend a little bit more time promoting it, make it.
Dude, I didn't think I was
going to product.
I'm just mind blown. If I didn't know any better, I thought you went to Wisconsin, Storniolo. Holy smokes!
Hey, watch it. I coach at Northwestern.
Wait, so Tommy, are you saying that you're bought into his program here or what?
I am bought into the thought process. I mean, it's like you got anyone that I don't buy into something just because they say it to me, but I'm gonna sleep on this. I like the thought process. It makes business sense from an economic sense, controlling the budget. Let's take Ohio State for instance. They probably have 15 dual meets a year. There's only 3 or 4 that I really care about watching. The rest is an event to get out of the house and say hello to my friends and bring my son and watch. And so as a fan, I don't think I'd mind it. As an athlete, I certainly wouldn't mind it. And I think as a coach, you can put more energy and money into promoting the duels that actually matter to you. I think there's merit to it. I mean, man, I've never really heard it talked to that way.
So, Matt, are you going to then, are you planning on putting one of these together as kind of a test run? Or have you already done it?
No, we haven't done it. And really, this is an idea that I've kicked around. I've shared it with a couple of people. But after hearing you guys kind of vouch that it holds some water, that's something. Maybe next year we'll try to do something like this, put it on the schedule, and maybe it'll be something that catches on. I think that wrestlers are stubborn. We don't like to change. That's pretty apparent, and I feel like we kind of have blinders on with this. We're trying to keep doing what worked before, and we need to change with the times. Times are changing, and it used to be everybody would go to dual meets and stuff. I think because you had 5 channels on television. Now people have 250 some. You can watch matches from home. You need to think a little bit differently about how you're going to get butts in the seats.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested to see it play out and see how it goes. And I don't think there's been done anything exactly like this, but obviously there's been quad duels and that kind of thing, which isn't in the same vein exactly what you're saying, but it would be the same from as far as reducing travel by getting a lot of matches in at one time kind of deal. Yeah, and I think what else we're seeing in college scheduling is people are getting less matches. I know when I was coming through, we were at about 40 matches a year or so. And I think even if you look older records, it was around 50 matches, and now you're really seeing a lot of the teams are holding it right around 30 matches or so for every year.
It's a long, tough season, and then when you add training to it, if you talk to anybody that's played football and wrestling, most people tell you wrestling's a harder sport. It hurts more leaving a competition. Look at football; it's played once a week. They only have 12 games in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I feel like it kind of goes into the same line of thought. If you put more effort into promoting fewer duels, you have better product. If your wrestlers aren't as chewed up throughout the season, your end product's going to be a better product too.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Hey, so one topic Tommy and I were talking about last week was and this kind of goes in, and I want to hear your opinion on it. The split season where they're doing the tournament national championship and then the dual national championship, pushing it back to a one semester thing. Where do you stand on all those issues?
I I think the one semester idea would be beneficial. And for a school like us, it would put us in a little bit of a predicament. We'd have to figure out what we're doing with the Midlands. It would obviously change the timing of that, and we'd make that adjustment. And the one semester idea is great because, again, this goes back to APR. If
Right.
you only have kids that are traveling and competing over one semester or however it breaks down, that's good. They can focus on their academics half the year. They have their attention split between the wrestling and the academics the other half of the year. And I think you see grades and APRs go up. I'm not necessarily sold on the two different seasons. I feel like that's more of a ploy to try to, again, make dual meets more relevant than they actually are. And yeah, I don't like that idea. Look at, for example, under the current qualification standards, you have to hit so many matches before you can be ranked or get an index to qualify your spot for nationals. Some of the ways that guys have been injured, if they're injured during the year, they have the option of going and entering some open tournaments to get their matches up so that they hit these qualification standards. If you do away with tournaments in the latter half of the year, you're taking that opportunity away from guys. Now you're not going to have the best guys qualifying spots for nationals. You're not going to have the best guys going to nationals, and your product's going to suffer in the long run.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because we obviously have seen that in the last few years where, a guy might get hurt and then the team only has duels left on the schedule and they go to an open tournament by themselves to meet those qualification standards. So it's an interesting thought.
It's just a shuffle around. Hey, go to this open tournament, get a couple dubs, and it's counterintuitive to the purpose of it all.
Yeah, for sure. And so one more topic that we want to hit you up on, Matt. And Tommy and I we started the show today, and we were talking. I'm in North Carolina right now. I went with the Wolfpack RTC the last couple of days to work out. But we were talking about how good of a job Pat Popolizio is doing, and how he didn't have maybe he was good, obviously, but didn't have the greatest wrestling credentials. And we kind of got on the topic of wrestling is one of the only sports where the guys with the very best credentials usually get the best jobs. And Tommy and I were both kind of making the point that it's kind of a silly thought process. And someone I know, Brian Smith, he's in Missouri doing a fantastic job, and he maybe didn't have the best college credentials. So what do you think it is about the wrestling world that makes those guys get those jobs all the time? And do you think that it's beneficial? Because I would say you're in the middle there. You had a very good career, but maybe you wouldn't be up there with a Brands or a Sanderson. So what do you think about that topic?
I think you guys are pretty spot on with it. If you look at other sports like baseball, football, those coaches and managers, they're typically not your best players. And it's probably has something to do with the wrestling mindset. Like I said earlier, we're stubborn people. We think a little bit differently. And I think with wrestling, there's a bit of an elitist attitude with just learning from people. Certain guys want to say, how can I learn from that guy? He wasn't even an All-American, or that guy wasn't a national champ. He's not going to be able to make me a national champ.
Yeah,
and I think you're right. It is similar to wrestling, or it's special to wrestling, I should say. But I don't know, other than just that kind of wrestling mindset, how to explain that or why I think that is.
Why do you think sometimes it works?
I have one reason that I just thought of. Wrestling's kind of unique also. You don't see coaches in other sports that get on their playing field, and football coaches aren't playing football at practice with their players. Baseball coaches aren't, maybe they throw some pitches, but for the most part, your coaches don't interact at practice with your athletes. Wrestling, it happens. So there is something to be said. You're going to have a built-in workout partner with your coach. They're actually out there on the mat, and they're mixing it up with you.
Interesting.
Yep.
So I guess one topic that I'm kind of reluctant to bring up, Matt, but you threw it at me, and I let you run with one already, and we're going to let you run with one more.
All right,
you
great.
said something like Pokemon Go is like coaching wrestling. And I don't play Pokemon Go, so I have no idea what in the hell you're talking about.
Neither do I.
The lack of a better term, it's the same damn thing.
So wait, let me get this straight. Tommy, you've never played, right?
No. I know that people fell off a cliff in San Diego chasing a Pokemon Go.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
similarities right there. Pokemon Go players are crazy. Wrestlers are crazy. They're going to go whatever ends they have to go to meet their goals. But I was explaining it to a friend about like how Pokemon Go works, and I'm not a huge Pokemon Go player. I've played a couple of times with my girlfriend, and I took a recruit a couple of weeks ago into the city to a Pokemon Go hotspot and walked him around and played some Pokemon Go with him
Can
there.
you say what recruit that was or no?
I don't think I can.
He cannot disclose.
I can't disclose the source.
This is the way I describe it. Think about Pokemon Go. Your whole objective is you're trying to go out and you're trying to catch the best Pokemon you can catch, which is like going out and recruiting. You're trying to find the best recruits. Then, like I said, you got to catch them. And you got to get them. You got to get them to your university. In Pokemon Go, you're trying to get them in a ball. In wrestling, you're trying to get them to your university. Then once you have the Pokemon, you got to train it. You got to get it stronger. And then you send it out to fight the other Pokemon and see who's better. So really...
that's what you do?
Is that what Pokemon Go is?
That's really what you train them?
Yeah, you train them, they get stronger, and then you go battle other Pokemon. Try to take over their gyms.
I had no idea.
Thing.
I had no idea. None. So
are you told? Did I convince you?
So is it like MMA fighting? Like they go fight the other gyms or what?
Yeah, you gotta knock off the Pokemon that are guarding the gym, and then you make it your gym.
Wow, that's interesting. And I had no idea.
I feel like Kale would be able to back me up a little bit on this one. I know he's a big Clash of Clans player.
He is?
Maybe not Pokemon Go. Yeah, he's a huge Clash of Clans player. We actually, one of my assistants caught him during the finals of Fargo playing Pokemon Go.
Oh no, they didn't.
That good.
Yeah, he got busted.
But yeah, and I feel like they're all, it's all relative,
Sure.
Absolutely.
Well, I did my research while we were talking here, Matt, and
okay.
While you can't speak on it, I can, and so rumors are true, and apparently it's already confirmed that Michael Beard he's committed to Northwestern, and then looking through.
How about that?
How about that? So congratulations, and then looking through the list. Michael Beard has a teammate named Ryan Caroli, who's also, like you said, a top 15 guy. And so, while you cannot confirm nor deny, I'm going to maybe go ahead and guess that might be who you guys are recruiting.
I can confirm the recruitment of Ryan Caroli.
Okay, well that's interesting. That would put together quite a fantastic class for you guys. I guess last question before we let you go. Johnny Sebastian, Bryce Brill, both very highly recruited guys. Hurt last year, they're back this year. What are you looking to get out of those guys?
They're a couple of talents. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility to see both of those guys on top of the podium come March. And I know that there are a lot of things that go into it. And it's not always the best wrestler that wins that tournament. There's a little bit of. It's who's on a certain day. It's matchups. Sometimes it's when a ref blows a whistle. But both of those kids are good enough to do it. They're both gamers. They're not new to big competition. And yeah, I have extremely high expectations for both of them.
Well, that's all. And then so they'll be 57 and 65 then.
57 and 74. Bryce is going to go 57, and Johnny is going to go 174.
Okay, nice. Well, Tom, you got anything else for Matt before we let him go?
No, man, it's just awesome to have young people coaching at big-time programs with a lot of resources, and it's exciting to see all the progress so quickly. Matt, congrats, and we should have you on again. I mean, your insight was, I don't say this very often, but having someone say something to me that makes sense that I've never heard before, it doesn't really happen too often. So I'm impressed, and You've got me thinking all night. I'm probably not going to sleep very well. It's good. It's good stuff, man. I'm going to have to ponder on it.
Well, I really appreciate it. That's quite a compliment. Thank you, Tommy.
I'm in Chicago once a month too, slinging produce. So I'll have to get a hold of you, get your number from Ben. Maybe we can hang out a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, all right, Matt. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Ben. Really appreciate it. Thanks,
See you,
guys.
bud.
Thanks, Matt.
Bye.
Man, Ben.
Tommy, you still there?
Yeah, that guy was impressive. Matt Storniolo.
He definitely thinks outside the box.
I've known him from afar for, the better part of, I'd say about 10 years, 10, 12 years. And
Yeah.
always smiling, always good upbeat personality. I don't doubt, I would have assumed even before talking to him on the podcast tonight that he's a good recruiter or has that penchant to communicate with people very well. But his thoughts are very organized. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, I didn't say anything. I was getting ready to say something. I've got to know him pretty well because he slings some mean disc, which means him and I have spent a few hours walking up and down the disc golf course here or there. Got to talking. Yeah, he's and we need more of him in wrestling. Guys who kind of think outside the box like he does. I mean, when he first said that thing to me about dual meets, I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? And then, sure enough, he made a whole bunch of good points, and to the point where me and you were thinking, well, yeah, someone should try that and see how it goes. And really, I put up a post on my Facebook page yesterday about that, how people need to evolve within wrestling. The best wrestlers always evolve. They never stay who they are for too long, because if you stay for who you are too long, people are going to catch you and they're going to figure you out. And so I think you could say the same thing for the sport of wrestling. And sadly enough, we didn't evolve enough, and that was one of the reasons we got dropped from the Olympics when we did 3 years ago. So I think wrestling as a sport, Tommy, you and I have talked about this at length, needs to evolve a whole bunch more. So having guys in the sport like Matt who are thinking outside the box, thinking that way, can only do us a whole bunch of good.
Well, I will tell you, anybody that can say something in an organized fashion the way that he did, you got to keep them in the sport, in the front, leading something, because, not to get too cliched here, but the people that can innovate and lead a charge and stand for something that's a little bit unique, they usually make big changes in the space that they work in. And man, I just never knew that Storniolo had that consistent, organized thought process about him. I mean, everything he said had applied logic to it, which, I would imagine when he's in a living room with a kid and the parents, they're like, man, I mean, my son gets to get a great education. He gets exposed to somebody that really thinks before he speaks, and he gets to be in Chicago and a great job network, and he's going to get some studs. He's going to get them.
I believe so too, and obviously it doesn't hurt to have an awesome man. Well, it does hurt a little bit. It hurts and it helps to have an amazing academic institution behind you. Obviously, the admission standards are a lot more strict, but then sometimes you get those kind of kids who are just great kids across the board, do great at school and do great at wrestling.
Well, maybe they have a good need program. Like if they need a 141 pounder, admissions office will let them get admitted.
Oh, I don't think they get him in that easy. I'm not for sure on that one.
Well, some schools I know do.
Cornell?
Well, yes, I'll leave them nameless.
We got a few minutes left. You want to talk politics? Because we got the last debate coming up tomorrow night.
Oh man, yeah,
no
we can't. Well, yeah, your buddy Trump has got some serious overcoming to do.
Well, let me ask you this, because mainstream media is not covering it all, Tommy, and we are in some sense of the word, we are media a little bit. Have you been paying attention to any of the WikiLeaks documents that are coming out?
Yeah, man, it's absolutely bananas.
I mean, so I just don't know how anyone with reasonable logic could, at this point, you say, I hate Trump, but I don't see how you could vote for Hillary. I mean, just a few of the things that have came out, I mean, and there's a lot of things, but just a few, like the fact they tried to bribe the FBI to change the classified emails to unclassified emails so they didn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
That's like mind-blowing. The whole one that came out about her saying you need a public policy and a private policy, referring to when she's talking to the banks, when she's talking to America public. Like when you hear those two things, and you just think like this is like this lying.
How about her campaign starting 2 fake Catholic organizations to create divisiveness amongst a specific religion?
I didn't hear that one.
Oh, yeah. That was about 3 weeks ago. Could you imagine if Donald Trump started 2 fake Islamic religious groups to create divisiveness in the American Islamic faith? What the liberals would have done to him in the media?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's crazy. And then obviously the one that's coming out just recently is that there's all this undercover footage of what it's essentially is people being contracted from the DNC to go to Trump rallies and start riots and start fights and stuff.
So I agree with you. I don't know how you could vote for Hillary, but Ben, we've got to be an unbiased media source, and this Donald Trump.
We do?
Well, I want to be. How about that? Is that better?
Fair.
This Donald Trump is a clown too. I don't care what anybody says. I'm gonna vote for him over Hillary, but I shouldn't even say that. I'm definitely not voting for Hillary.
I thought you said you were unbiased.
I'm just stating my opinion, but I'm not voting for Hillary. I'm probably gonna vote for Trump, but this guy is a first-class schmucko too.
Sure, but okay. So last thought. Then, did you see the one other email, the WikiLeaks email that said? I don't remember which member of the Democratic Party was, but said they want to create a compliant citizenry that is unaware of what's going on. Do you see that one?
Yeah, I saw that, and I even feel bad saying who I was going to vote for or not for. All I know is that these 2 candidates, I can't believe that these are our choices.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking that. I mean, man, with compliant citizenry and who is unaware of what's going on, I gotta say that the citizenry is not compliant. But I think there is a lot of people in America who are very unaware of what's going on because mainstream media is not covering this stuff.
No,
they just aren't, and I think that in itself is unfair because I think the American public, even if they don't want to do the research for themselves. It is the duty of the media to cover the election and everything else fairly, which I don't know that they're doing.
Our mainstream media is the biggest catalyst for why these are our 2 candidates. These 2 candidates together sell the best commercials, the most valuable commercials. I mean, the debate ratings are unbelievably high compared to past.
Are they?
And oh yeah. It's brutal. I'm getting mad. I don't even feel like we're talking about good stuff here. But that debate tomorrow is going to be off. The debate tomorrow is going to be off the chain. I mean, it's going to be a no holds barred, let it rip. Just meltdown.
Yeah.
Especially, it's going to be crazy. So.
And Tommy, I mean, I don't love to talk about. I'd rather talk about wrestling than politics any of the week. But at the end of the day, this is the future of America in the balance. And if I can inspire 100 more people to go out and read some articles that they haven't previously read to maybe become more informed about what's actually going on in the world around them, then I think that's my duty as an American.
Yeah, I think that Donald Trump is a loudmouth. He's said so many inappropriate things. But if you want to talk about corruption, I would say that neither one of them are very good examples, but I would say that Hillary Clinton by far takes the cake over Donald Trump in terms of deep-rooted corrupt behavior.
100%. Well, let's end on that note.
Yeah. I bet we're gonna have some people tweeting at us saying, "Don't talk to me about politics ever again, or I'm not watching your show anymore." Oh well,
that's fine.
It's free country, right?
It's America. We can do what we want to. And they're allowed to tweet what they want to. So if you don't agree, you can tweet at us. We're perfectly fine with that, man. I said we were gonna end the podcast, but so I don't know if you saw this, but George St. Pierre became a free agent. Yesterday.
You gonna play this? You gonna play this? You gonna fight this dude?
Well, I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna do the best I can. So I've been harassing him with tweets and we talk about freedom of speech. It is so funny. Some of the some of the tweets I get back tell me I'm a jackass or I suck or I can't fight. It's hilarious. So yeah, I'm a big boy, and if you guys want to text me and tell me that you don't like something I say, I'll perfectly fine with that because it would.
You'll retweet them and make comments. You'll just say, "Let's do it."
Yeah. So
I love that.
Yeah, it's all good. So Tommy, well, I'm sure we'll be back next week. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a guest. Maybe we'll do a college wrestling preview.
I think we got a couple more weeks before we do the preview,
Okay,
but it's
it's
coming. It's coming.
It's coming in time.
Yep.
All right, buddy.
All right, my brother. Have a good one. Thank you, Defense Soap.
As always, they were at the Super 32.
How'd they do?
Good, I'm sure.
How was Rudis there? Was there a lot of Rudis gear?
Rudis was everywhere, dude.
Outstanding. It's good to hear. All right, brother. I'll talk to you next week.
See you, bud.
Thanks. Bye. You are listening to the T-Row and Funky Show, brought to you by Defense Soap. Defend what you have built.